Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting-edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And we're going to do it again tonight. Tonight's going to be a really interesting conversation. But before Augie tells you about our fascinating guest, I believe he's quite fascinating based on the website and the little research that I've done, I just want to invite you, as always, to join us on Sunday for the Mastermind Connection. A group of like-minded people come together, and for a like intention, we focus our thought power into the quantum realm, where that intention for the attachment of the emotion and the feeling that we put into it takes shape and manifests in the physical. We've worked on dangerous weather patterns. We've worked on certain diseases, if you will. We've worked on personal health and well-being. We worked on peace during the elections in America. And, things seem to be working. We are not the only people on the planet doing this, and we believe that we meet them too in the quantum realm and contribute to the amazing outcomes. So it's on Sunday. Send an email to the mastermind connection at gmail.com. We'll send you the link. You can jump in at 2:00, join us, see if it's a good fit for you. And at the 3:00 hour, we have discussions, and it's just so much fun. So as always, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for telling your friends and your family. Well, maybe not your family. They may think you're crazy, right? Your friends about us. And just thank you for your support and your love and your super chats. And Augie, let's talk about our guest.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun because we have James Edward Lucier with us, and he is way up into Canada. And we were talking before the show, and he said that there's, I think what we came up with was about 21 or 22 below in Fahrenheit. That's 30 minus in centigrade. Man, oh man, that is pretty rough. But I guess he is dealing with it. So the good saying is that it's better that it's up there than down here. And this is going to be interesting because James has a very interesting background. He stepped out of the box, it sounds like, when he was 11 years old, when he found himself outside of his physical body, looking back at himself. And at that age, that didn't make a lot of sense to him, but he was researching, and he's been trying to figure out the universe ever since. Since that day, he has been also having great experiences, and now he is sharing his experiences with the world. He is on the speaking circuit. He's been interviewed on local TV and radio shows internationally. He has hundreds of successful psychic premonitions that has come true, or what he told about beforehand. And that's quite admirable. He's also a Reiki master. He's written 44 books. I got to say that again. 44 books. That's phenomenal. And he's put together a mystery school where he's teaching 7 courses. And that, when I look through it, that runs to about 70 or 80 different deep subjects that most people are wondering about. And you will find him at his website, and I will spell that because it doesn't sound right when I say mystagoke1.com. I'm going to definitely spell that one. MYSTAGOGUE1, the number 1.com. And now you understand why I needed to spell that. 44 books. I got to say that again. This is phenomenal. So keep your ears on, folks, and keep them wide open because this is going to be good. So welcome to the show, James.
Welcome, James.
Well, thank you very much. Happy New Year to everybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
happy
it's pronounced mystagogue. I
Mystic.
found it through the dictionary. I was wanting to find a name for my school, and I
Yeah.
thumbed through, and it came up as mystagogue, and I looked under it, and it said Master of the Occult Sciences and so forth. And so, well, okay, that's all right. I'll use that.
All right. So that's what it means.
That's wonderful. So, James, I'm always curious about the human part of this. How did all this begin for you? How did you open up to this kind of the journey?
Well, I've always had an interest in astronomy, going back as to when I was a kid. And yeah, when I was about 10 or 11, I had this experience where I left my body, and I'm pretty sure that it's a memory of when the transfer took place, where I'm a walk-in, and what happened was my soul from another world came into this one, into this body, and the other soul chose not to live this life and chose to go to a different world. So there was this transfer, and the dream was very, very vivid. Um, After that, I started getting more and more into mysticism, and uh, family, uh, they didn't understand what was happening, why I was so much, I'm a kid, and I'm into UFOs and Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all these different kinds of things. And all the other kids were into cars and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's been a lonely kind of experience because the things that I've been interested in. I started channeling in the late 80s after reading books on channeling. And once I started channeling, the floodgates just exploded, and tons and tons of information started coming down through me. I'd be working, and all of a sudden, it was like blinders were put over my eyes. I couldn't. It's like a virtual reality goggle was put over my eyes, and I was seeing all this structures of the universe and hearing sort of like telepathic messages of certain sentences. So I had to run away all the time in school, or in work, and hide and write all this stuff down as fast as I could on pieces of paper and stuff like that, and drawings and stuff. And then eventually I amassed a huge box of, over the years, a huge box of just papers. And one day I said, well, what am I going to do with all this information? And I got the idea of starting some kind of ancient mystery school. So ever since then, it's been in development.
Wow. Wow. Well, actually, one of the people in our chat room, Margaret, I believe, she asked, what is a mystery school?
Oh, well, mystery schools, I can give you a little bit of a briefing of its history if you like.
It'd be great.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, like the modern day mystery schools are now known as secret societies, such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, OTO, Salima, and so forth. But it all began in very ancient Egypt. They believe sometime after the fall of Atlantis, And a lot of information and knowledge was given into the schools known as the Thoth schools of and Hermetic alchemy. And this knowledge was kept secret from most people. You had to go through quite a few of initiations in order to be entered into the order. And Akhenaten was one of the biggest starters of these schools. The knowledge of the ancient Egyptians actually came from Atlantis. They were very well versed in things like the flower of life and sacred geometry and so forth. And they developed quite a few methods on how to obtain the knowledge of this sacred geometry and to become one with it. So it went from Egypt to the Middle East, and from the Middle East to Greece and Rome, through the Hellenistic and Neoplatonian eras. There was Pythagoras. Started his own mystical school based on mathematics, which he himself learned from other smaller schools. And through time, there was these worries that ancient knowledge was going to be lost. So they put it into the Rider-Waite Tarot system. And the Rider-Waite Tarot, as it later became known, was passed. It's a mystery school within itself.
I didn't know
many
that.
of the many of the modern day Western tradition, esoteric tradition schools are based on the tarot, the Rider-Waite Tarot, and so it went through the Middle East as various forms of Christian mysticism before the Roman invention of it. Like the Essenes and the Gnostics and so forth. And one of the main themes of the whole mystery school concept is the life, death, and resurrection. There's quite a few of them throughout history. Osiris, Attis, Mithra, Dionysus, Persephone, and many others. And in Egypt, it was known as IAO, which is Isis, Apophis, Osiris. And then they combined things like astrology and sacred geometry and, of course, the Rider Tarot, and eventually launched the Renaissance. The so-called Illuminati of that time were actually artists, and the artists knew that the church was going to take away as much knowledge as possible. So what they did was that they hid a lot of their sacred knowledge in the arts. And so groups like Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and others developed up through Italy and Rome and Greece and so forth, and made their way through the rest of Europe. And jumping ahead now, there was a woman by the name of Madame Helena Blavatsky, and she started the Theosophical Society, and she brought a lot of what we now know as the Western ancient tradition to the Western world through a book called The Secret Doctrine. Yeah, that's kind of a.
That's fascinating. I so much I did not know.
Yeah, the mystery schools has been around for a very long time. They're in Asia, and they've had different versions of it. And what you just said, really, I haven't even thought of, and that is that, yes, the Masons is a form of mystery school. The Rosicrucians is a form of mystery school. They teach these same subject that they did 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. So
Yes, AJ.
I never thought of it like a mystery school.
Yeah, absolutely. They used to call them ancient mystery schools way back thousands of years ago, but now that they've developed into the more or less secret societies, which I'm not a member of any of them, by the way.
Yeah.
We didn't want to ask.
No, I'm not a member of any of them. I've been invited to quite a few, but once they find out that I'm just an ordinary, I'm not a multi-millionaire or anything, they just kind of leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Because many of these societies want very rich people to enter their order, and you also have to have a very, very good memory.
Oh, really?
Oh yes, yeah, especially for Freemasonry.
What's the memory part for? For rituals or energy?
Yes, rituals, ceremonies. As to why you need to memorize so much material, I'm not quite sure. I think it's just to ingrain in the brain that there's certain ways you should be behavior.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Deeply trained, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the Freemasons, they like, I'm not a Freemason, but I've read a fair amount on it. And one of the things about it is something called the Hiram Abiff, where, again, they carry over the very ancient Egyptian Isis, Apophis, Osiris theme, where a person is symbolically knocked out and brought back to life. One of their main rituals.
Very Isis. Fan the life back into them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Now you have done. You have also
ahead.
done a large number of predictions or premonitions that you've gotten through, some of it through dream, and you are a pretty good psychic. So many of these has come true and been accurate. Can you maybe speak a little bit on that?
Sure. Yeah, I've always been really good at remembering my dreams, and it's mostly been through dreams. I'll dream of tornadoes, or I'll dream of certain politicians, or I'll dream of earthquakes, floods, or whatever, and I write it down, and then I try to record it on my Facebook or my blog, as soon as I have the dream. And lo and behold, the next day or a couple days later, it happens. A lot of people would say that dreaming of tornadoes and stuff like that is just inner turmoil, but actually, it's the quantum hearing machine in our brain is trying to tell us that we are all one giant mind, in one big giant mind of the Creator, and conscious contact is the primary objective, this affinity that we are one with everything. So people will tend to, most people get premonition dreams, they don't act on them, or they don't recognize them, or just, they don't write it down.
Yeah.
And so I've had these, sometimes it's a vision, sometimes it appears as a vision. I've made premonitions of presidents being elected long before they were even, like Obama, President Obama, had I looked at him one day about 5 years before he ran for president. And I said, he's going to be the next president. I just really felt it, and
Wow.
so I wrote all that down and stuff. Yeah.
Mm. I was
Interesting.
looking at your list of all the subjects that you teach in the mystery school, and one of them that is one of my favorite things to think about actually is the origin of mankind. And you on there you talk about an extraterrestrial nature of the creation or the origin of mankind, or at least one line of us. What is that all about?
Well, it's a very long story, but I'll keep it I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
It goes back to the very ancient days of like Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, and others even before that. And the extraterrestrials, the aliens, if you will, have always been with us. And there were ages, especially in Lemuria, where we worked with them, and they walked among us, and many forms of hybrid type creatures were created during those times. And one of the things that happened was that there's been, it's kind of like the Matrix, the Matrix story where
Yes.
there's been predecessors to Neo.
Yes.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing with the human race. There was predecessors before us. And so no one knows exactly when, but many thousands of years ago, the Anunnaki, one of the races that have always been here, chose to create, I don't want to say a slave species, because we didn't know any better at that time. We were more of a worker army.
Yes.
And eventually we started to develop a consciousness. And we started to develop this soul. Souls were starting to enter into us. And the Anunnaki realized that they had to give us our freedom. And so there was a little bit of a war between Enlil and Enki and others. Eventually, we were given our freedom, but then Enlil started complaining that we were too noisy. He said, "Okay, well, we have to flood them." And there were many arcs, not just Noah's Ark. There were many others, and this was the work of Enki, who helped save us from the floods. And so that was pretty much the end of Atlantis and other ancient civilizations. They were destroyed by volcanoes and earthquakes, more or less by the extraterrestrials, more or less because we had gone too far. We had I don't want to say the word. Well, we were too naughty, and we had taken our technologies too far, and they said enough of that. And so here we are again, probably the fifth or sixth race, and we're starting over. But we started using nuclear weapons, started testing them, and that awoke the bad entities to come through.
We screwed everything up, right?
Yeah, well, pretty close.
Yeah, right.
The same thing with many other civilizations like the Mayans and others. They destroyed themselves, through overconsumption of everything, and we're kind of getting close to the same thing again.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind if we change subjects for a minute?
Oh, sure.
I'm very curious. You mentioned that you're a walk-in.
Yes.
I'm so intrigued about that. And, my first question was, when you walk in, who do you feel like? Do you feel at all like the person that was there, or do you come in feeling like you, if you will, as the walk-in?
Very much like my planet is from my soul is kind of like a bluish planet, a lot of turquoise and a lot of kind of very beautiful place apparently, and I long for it. I had an
Oh,
experience one time where a triangular, a large triangle UFO passed over me and a friend, and it beamed us, like it hit us with this beam. It was like scanning us or something.
yeah.
And I felt so homesick after that. I felt, oh my God, I want to go home. I, you know, and I started
Yes.
seeing all these visions of my home world. But my
Oh,
life has been trying to fit into everything. I'm not
mhm.
well versed in technologies. I still try to get accustomed to food and stuff like that. And even at my age,
Fascinating.
Mm.
Fascinating. Are you a different age than the person you walked in for?
I feel that first the soul part of me is ancient or more
Mm,
experienced, maybe.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
just
thank you
more or
for
less just
being
have.
here.
Oh well, thank you,
Yes. No,
thank you
please.
for having me.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
no. I mean,
Yeah,
for
I've
walk.
Yeah, I think a lot of us feel that way, that it doesn't feel like it is right here. We feel like,
right.
especially, this is the way I'm looking at it. I feel myself, and I have glimpses of memory where I was going through just the blackness of space in a craft. And we feel like we don't really belong here, a lot of us. Then we're just wondering, why am I here in the first place? And then we start thinking about it. Maybe it does have a purpose, but we feel like a lot of us were from somewhere else.
Exactly.
I'm
Yes,
making,
I feel that all the time.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel that
And
all the time. Just
mhm.
it's like I didn't fit in elementary school, high school, uh, anywhere else. Was always kind of the moron type person. I hate to use that word,
Aw,
but it was like I don't understand what the hell everybody's doing.
yeah,
I just don't
sure.
Yeah.
understand
Yes,
it.
that makes
Mhm.
sense. That makes sense. So
And a lot
you
of
must,
these, yeah, go ahead, Nori.
no, I was just thinking that there must be a great deal of comfort, in the mystery school, because it's what you know.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. It was quite a few decades of. I've probably amassed at least over the decades at least 10,000 hours of channeling, um, and I've created probably getting pretty close to 900 illustrations and diagrams of what could be called alien philosophy,
Wow.
extraterrestrial philosophies of how they run their ships, how they control their ships. Um, yeah, we have to learn the philosophies first. With reverse engineering or anything like that, we have to learn uh, the proper understanding
Hmm.
the quantum realm.
Mm.
Yeah, then maybe that's the problem why they're having such problems at Area 51. All they care about is the hardware, seems like, from what we hear. And they may
Yes,
not be able to understand that a lot of these ships that they find has no engines in it. It has no control, just a few controls. and that's it. They don't understand that it is flown by consciousness. And maybe that's why they have such problems too. And actually, when it comes down to quantum mechanics, that explains a lot of that. And we were talking before the show also about quantum mechanics just a little bit. What is the difference between our mind and the universal mind, or source, or whatever people want to call it? What is the difference between our mind and the universal mind, or is it one?
Well, naturally, it is one, but the difference is ego, like personality ego. And we are learned from childhood, especially in the Western world, to detach from the natural cosmic mind. We're taught to think logic and reason and numbers and computers and systems and all these things, and we lose our spirituality, because we're essentially spiritual beings. And on what's that saying? Human spiritual beings having human experiences,
Yes.
and that's exactly how it is. And that's more or less the difference. Is we're raised into a capitalist society, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you want things, but but we lose our connection to the spiritual essence of the universe.
Yes.
If we talk about creation, there are some theoretical physicists that is coming out and say that there is nothing here except what we create in our mind in holographic form. Have you looked at that? And what is your take on this hologram that we are living? Now it gets deep here, but I love it.
Yeah, I read a book quite a long time ago called The Holographic Universe. And I had to really think about that. And the universe does seem to work in a holographic form, in that every place in space and time is like a singularity. At the quantum level, all space and time is qualified right at that very point. So every point in space and time is the whole of the entire universe. And so it's like a hologram. But at the same time, the universe allows us our free will. It allows us to make choices. There's a development now in quantum mechanics called fuzzy thinking, and where the apple is both blue and red. The sky is both green and blue. We're coming up to that with computers pretty soon. Eventually, computers won't be using ones and zeros so much as they'll be using fractals, fractions.
Yeah,
And
that's the quantum computers.
Right. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the difference is we have our free will, we have our souls, our immortal spirits, and not everything is preordained, although the Creator may know all that is. And by the way, the extraterrestrials, most people who have been abducted or have been chosen by them, they come back and they say they asked what they believed God was, and they keep saying they call it the Creator of all.
The Creator of all.
Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful.
That makes sense.
It does make sense.
Because the Creator of all, that must be that universal mind, then, where everything is in it.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the UFOs, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's both things in it and there are entities in it. And That's another one when it comes to angels. Um, you know, a lot of people depict angels with wings on them, and some of them have no wings on them. And where does angels come into the picture? Because I have found them to be real. Where do they come from, or what is maybe their mission? Why are they here? And 14 other questions.
Many believe that the angelic orders are extraterrestrial. That we call them angels, means messengers, and they're like many other different forms of entities. They come through the dimensions. What I teach is the Earth is one big giant portal. It's made of infinite numbers of gateways. Is why you get these cryptids come through sometimes angels, sometimes other things, and but the main angelic order appears to be Shem Hamphori, and that's kind of a Jewish name for the 72 main primary names of God. So they all have that L at the end: Raphael, Gabriel, so on and so forth. This angelic order, Enoch, in the book of Enoch, he experienced these angelic alien types, and they are love. They are trying to help us, and he experienced their spaceships as extremely massive, the size of the Earth, is what he described them as.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a picture of one of those. In fact, Nori and I have a picture of one of those planet-size UFOs sitting next to the sun and in a spiral, soaking up energy from the sun. And you can see the black ship next to the sun. So you're exactly right. That is not a natural body to be close to the sun. That is a ship.
Yes, it is. And what people need to realize is that there is no end. Well, in my opinion, there is no end to the universe from what I channel, and there is no end to the size of the spaceships that these create and use. So they can jump right through the stars of suns. And that picture is probably a picture of there is one of a triangle or a pyramid-looking one sitting beside the sun that they've got a couple pictures of. And those are extremely massive, several times the size of the Earth. And Enoch described the angels as being extremely massive. And so what we need to get used to is thinking in the bigger picture, thinking in the much, much bigger picture of these beings don't want to take us over. They don't want to control our planet. They don't want to do this or do that, because there's trillions and trillions and trillions of inhabited solar systems and planets throughout the universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're not alone, and it's going to become very apparent very soon.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yes.
Now we are spiritual being having a physical experience. What about when we end our physical experiences? Some people call it death, or some people maybe just say that we'll drop the body and go home, or we graduate, or what happens to us? In your opinion, what do you think happens once we drop the body and we leave this place?
In Hindu belief, it's the soul is called the Atman, and soul in philosophy is the spark of the creator source, and it's an eternal spark, and it wanted to, us as souls, we wanted to learn what the existence of the eternal creator. And at death, our essence, our soul, if you will, I believe, enters back into the collective super love spiritual being of the creator. There's many realms, however. You know that. There's several numerous astral realms. One psychic who does the Dead Files describes many different entities with long extensions and long weird arms and all kinds of weird stuff. And those are elementals, and they often attach sometimes. And but for the most part, the spirit, the soul, goes past that and enters what most people describe as a vortex. And the vortex image, the tunnel image, is mostly that of the shape of the universe itself. That the universe is existing in kind of a giant vortex.
Wow.
And as we pass through to the other side, we go through this vortex.
Wow.
Yeah, that is probably more so the most people probably end up in a situation like that, finding their way home. But then we have ghosts. Then we have people that, let's say they were atheists and they had no clue about anything spiritual, or Catholics, of course, but other people that believe that there is bad things that could happen to us on the other side if we haven't been nice people. So what about them? There's got to be hope for them too, isn't it?
Oh yes, yes. The primary mobile of it all would be that all roads will eventually lead back to the Creator, but we have our karma as well. I mean, if we lived our lives treating people bad, what most people say when they've come back from being dead for a couple minutes, they've come back, most of them say that we experience exactly what we did unto others. If we were good to people, we feel that. If we were bad to people, we feel that. And it's all a learning and lesson learning experience. It's kind of like the purgatory almost. But once the soul realizes that, okay, I did this, don't want to do this anymore, don't want to do that anymore, then it makes plans with many other souls and decides, okay, let's make it better.
Yeah, and then there are, I believe there is a safety valve in this system, and that is forgiveness. Because I remember months ago, actually several years ago, I talked to a guy that was a sniper for the United States Army. He had well over 20 verified kills. He killed people with cold blood, he said, and he was totally convinced he was going to hell because, he was a Catholic, so that's what they believe. But when he died, he saw nothing of that. He went through and he felt the love. He was told to come back because he had more work to do. So I think he said something about having forgiven himself for it. So maybe that is the safety valve. Do you think there could be something to that?
Very much so. Creator, is all love, and everything is the very essence, at the very core of all things is love. I call it it's kind of like I say it like a law. Love is the law under all, which means that underneath everything is the principle of love.
Mm.
And yes, that would make a lot of sense. That, but at the same time, exactly what happens to a soul that has been bad or had to, I don't want to say the soldier was bad, he did his duty, and he did what he had to do. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's probably where he may have felt that forgiveness part, that he was ordered to do what he had to do. And whereas somebody as a serial killer, for example,
Mm,
that is very different. Where
Yeah.
definitely.
they will experience some really bad karma when they leave this world.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
But
Yeah.
sure.
I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in a hell. But they will feel what they did onto others, and
Yeah.
then once the soul has learned, then it will move on eventually.
I think the Bible is right on that when they say that you will be judged by God, because when you look even in the Bible, it says we are gods and we do judge ourselves. We evaluate what we did and find out, well, maybe we forgive what we did and forgive ourselves. But if there's something we screwed up so bad that we want to go back and try to make it right another time, then we can do that.
Exactly, AG.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree totally with that.
Yeah. What about
And
ET? What about extraterrestrials? Would they have the same kind, or well, there's so many of them, I don't know, but the kind of consciousness like we have? Maybe there are extraterrestrials also that do not have the consciousness that we have. What about that?
That's a really good point. Yeah, since the dawn of Hollywood, we've always assumed that the aliens think like we do, or they have the same kind of political systems as we do, or they
That would
have
be
the same
funny.
kind
Yeah.
of ethics we do. And
Well, I hope
it's
not.
called it's called anthropomorphic thinking, and that
Yeah.
is that we place our ethics, our morals onto them, when in fact, for example, I don't know if you, there's the Greys. There's some very bad ones, or I don't want to say bad, but nasty, I guess.
Not so nice
Uh,
ones. Yeah.
yeah, they came in through the nuclear explosions during the 40s and 50s. That's
Yeah.
when we started seeing. That's how they got through the safety nets that are around the planet,
Wow.
and they don't think in terms of good and evil, right and wrong. They just do what they intuitively feel is right for their species.
Hmm.
And a dove. Have you ever seen that movie? What is it? Mars Attacks,
I hadn't,
where
I hadn't seen it.
these aliens from Mars land on Earth, and we show them our respect with these doves. Well, doves to us means peace and
Yeah.
tranquility, whereas
Yes.
to them it might mean a sign of war.
Oh, great. Got
Yeah.
that one wrong.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Well,
Well, there's so
I'd like to get into some of the logistics about the school. If somebody wants to enroll in the mystery school, how does that work and how long is it? And, are there different curriculums that are broken up, or are you just in it for the whole duration? How does that work?
Well, there's several paths. What I'm working on at the moment, it's been really ground to a halt because of the COVID. I'm trying to work with this studio that wants to help me make all these videos so I can transfer everything, my entire school onto video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the city I live in is very controlled by more or less the church, and it's a small city, and our province is mostly made of really good, loving farmer people, but they don't think about the things that we think about and we talk
Mm.
about. And
Yeah.
so I live in a horrendously massive province, but we only have about 1.2 million people, and there's not much appetite for the kinds of
Yeah. Mm.
topics that we speak of. And
Sure.
so a person can enroll uh, so far pretty much in the city where I live. It'd be very difficult if it was somebody from quite a distance away, because it would
Oh,
last. My school is it isn't just a weekend thing. It isn't just you
right.
know you
Yeah.
take a few classes here and there, and there you go. This is
Yes.
probably about well over a month of
Mhm.
8-hour day study.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very real, very lengthy school.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I haven't had any clients at the moment, more or less for the reasons I just explained.
Sure.
So what I'm doing is transferring everything to video.
That's amazing. I mean, does the possibility exist that you could teach what you teach on a platform like Zoom, or so that people, who can't come in personally can still have the benefit of your amazing education?
Oh yes, I offer Zoom or Skype, and you can do it that way. Um, just have to prepay in advance, and
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Mhm.
But like I say, what I really want to do is the site is the web the school is kind of frozen at the moment, where because people really can't get, unless they want to fly in and spend
Yeah.
time at a hotel somewhere or something.
Sure.
But I really want to make a whole bunch of YouTube videos and get videos. You purchase the courses online, and you can
Yes.
study from home, as well as on Zoom or Skype with me.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. That would
When
be.
you put things on the internet, you're going to have a lot of activity on something like this, because I think it's really unique. I don't know of anybody else that has such a comprehensive program as you do. When I looked through it, I
It's
counted
huge.
to 80 different subjects there that was really deep. So this is something, if somebody wants an education, that's where they need to go and have a look at it.
I was
Yes,
very impressed.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a school that you can't find on YouTube or Google it, or these topics I've channeled over the decades is uh, very out of this world.
Literally.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I noticed
literally.
I noticed you have a lot of Reiki besides the Usui. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Reiki?
Yeah, you have a lot of Reiki offerings.
Yeah, I created my own module of Reiki. That was, of course, channeled, and the
Yes.
initiations, and all about cosmic affinity, where
Nice.
you are tuned to realize that you're one with everything, and everything is alive and conscious and made of love. And
Yeah,
so we, I've channeled all this, and the
I love that.
yeah, I offer quite a few Reiki classes. It's all about energy fields. Everything is energy, so everything is conscious. So it's all about getting in tune with that consciousness.
Yes. I mean, and that's essentially what Dr. Usui did when he created, his method. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Really
Yeah. He
beautiful.
apparently he got that from osmosis from other Buddhist, Tibetan type beliefs that he assimilated into his own program.
Yeah.
But Reiki actually goes back thousands of years before Yushi.
Really? Where do you trace it back to?
In many cultures of the world, a woman by the name of Barbara Ann Brennan
Oh,
wrote a
yes.
book called Hands of Light.
Yes.
And in the book, she's a NASA scientist. She she went all over the world searching for different healing energy modems, and she never does mention Reiki. She never found that, but that was also hidden at that time. It was a very hidden. Only select people were allowed to enter into that Reiki field at that time.
Interesting.
And yeah, it goes back way into very deep Buddhist monks healing, and Yushi discovered some of that through his life as a monk, and refitted it for he put symbols, special channeled symbols on the energy levels, and so that's so eventually it made its way to the Western world, but it was a very slow moving process.
I think for me, it goes back to Atlantis. And, I'm just starting to recover those memories. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about this, but we've got about 3 minutes left. I hope you'll come back and talk with us again, James. This was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd really love to. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, it was wonderful.
One more quick thing I want to mention. You have written 44 books. Mention some of the titles that you have written about, and also tell us where they can find those books.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's self-published books on Amazon Kindle. Amazon Kindle worldwide. In almost every country in the world, you just go to Amazon and you go to Kindle, and then you just type in my full name. Yeah, some of the books, one is called The Cryptid Codicy. That's about the origin of the cryptids, which goes back to Atlantis and Lemuria. And there's another one about the DNA of crop circles, about how crop circles work. And they work as an engine for levity.
Wow.
And so that book talks about that.
Wow.
So, yeah, a lot of the books are relatively short because they're very deep and they're very layered. So you'd have to read each book quite a few times to understand it all.
Understood. Yes. Wonderful.
That's good.
And your website one more time. Mystagogue?
Okay. Yes. Mystagogue 1. MYSTAGOGUE1.com.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here's my favorite question. I got to ask this, Lori.
Okay.
If you were speaking to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
I would say love each other, respect each other, accept each other, accept and compromise, and realize that allow everybody to be as they are, who they wish to be.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I felt that. Wow.
Yep, that's good.
I just want to take that in. That's so beautiful. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
You want to take us out?
Well, thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you, everybody, and God bless, and Creator bless, and Creatrix, whatever you believe in is the holiness
Yeah.
of your heart.
Aw, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's good. Thank you. And then we are done until next week. We will be back with an exciting show again. Until then, be good to each other.